When I discuss about dietary supplements with people, the first question I get is, why do I need supplements? People say they eat balanced diet, or they will say we eat the same diet that our forefathers ate. So basically saying that they don't need those supplements. Now that's when I realize that most people don't know the major changes that have happened in our food world, especially over the last 50 years. So what I'm going to do here is we'll play a game. I'm going to give you 15 different reasons why you are not getting enough nutrients from your food. 15. And at the end of each of those points, you can probably pause the video and see if you agree with me or not. And so if you agree, I get 1 point. And if you don't agree, you have reasons enough not to agree, then you get 1 point. And so at the end of the video, we'll see who gets more points. Okay. And of course, I'll not give you my opinions. I'm going to tell you about all the details that have been in published papers, research papers. So at the end of the video, I'll also give you a link to a detailed article of mine where you will find all these references. And so you can go through them to just verify that I'm not just claiming something, there is some scientific proof for it. Okay. So let's start this video. Let's first start with the external factors, or what we call environmental factors. Now these will be same for everyone, or pretty much same for everyone, and you will not have any control over it, so it's not your fault. So point number 1, reduction in the amount of nutrients. You may be eating the same food that your grandparents ate, but you are surely getting much less nutrients now. Here are some research findings. I'm going to read them for you. As per a big study done at the University of Texas at Austin, from 1950 to year 2004, so over 54 years, they studied 43 vegetables and they found that the important nutrients dropped between 6% to 38%. So they found calcium declined by 16%, iron by 15%, phosphorus by 9%, vitamin B2 by 38%, even vitamin C dropped a lot. Now you know that wheat is a good source of minerals such as iron, magnesium, zinc and copper. Now in a study in the UK, they found that the nutrients in wheat were found to be at similar levels in 1850 and 1875 and 1900 and 1925 and 1950, but something happened around mid 1960s. Since then, these nutrients have dropped significantly. In another study, this was done at Cushy Institute of Europe, and they found that between 1975 to 1999, that is over 22 years, in 12 fresh vegetables that typically you and I eat, calcium levels dropped by 27%, iron dropped by 37%, vitamin A dropped by 21%, and vitamin C levels dropped by 30%. Another study, this was published in the British Food Journal, they found that in 20 vegetables from 1930 to 1980, calcium content dropped by 19%, iron by 22%, potassium by 14%. One more study showed that you have to eat 8 oranges today to get the same amount of vitamin A that your grandparents got by eating just one. In fact, closer to my home in Mumbai, India, a study was done in year 2013 that they found that the vegetables that were sourced from the local markets in Mumbai had very low levels of iron, potassium, vitamin C, vitamin B12 and proteins compared to their organically grown counterparts which were found in rural areas. Just to give you an example, 100 grams of organic tomatoes had 148 milligrams of potassium, and the ones in Mumbai market had just 58 milligrams, 100 grams again of those tomatoes. Similarly, organic bottle gourd, which was sourced in proper rural setting, had textbook levels of iron and phosphorus. Perfect, whatever textbooks say. And the Mumbai samples had no traces of iron and phosphorus. So if you eat exactly the same food that your grandparents ate, you are 30 to 35% short on nutrition. Now you might say, well, we don't have these problems. We are getting healthy foods in our area. Well, let me give you some points on what is happening worldwide. Point number 2, topsoil erosion. So in good old days, the technique was to do crop rotation, or sometimes they used to keep the land fallow for some time. Maybe 1 or 2 seasons they would not use that for cropping. But these days we don't have that luxury. Now we use very intensive farming techniques where crops are taken one after the other without giving time for the soil to recover. Now think about it. If your plant takes chromium from the soil, how is it going to come back into the soil again? Reason number 3, something called dilution effect. These days, we don't grow our crops for better nutrition. We grow them for better yield or better palate. For example, the kernel of wheat that we have now is at least 3 times as big as what your grandparents used to have 50, 60 years back. And so that has taken care of hunger. In the same area, you can grow 3 times more amount of wheat that can feed poor people. However, the carbohydrates are 3 times more, the nutrients are the same as before. So per gram of carbohydrates from wheat that you get, the nutrients are 1/3 in a way. And this is called dilution effect. In fact, this increase in the calorie content but not increase in the nutrient content is called hidden hunger effect, because our people are getting calories but they are not getting nutrition. There's another thing happening now which is called global movement of foods. See, in our grandparents' time, most of the foods were locally produced, vegetables and other stuff. But these days, we get foods from all over the world. For example, when we were kids, I had never seen avocado, I had never seen dragon fruit or kiwi fruit, except in textbooks, of course. However, these days, they are standard fare. You go to any supermarket and you will see them. That means these fruits and vegetables have been cut somewhere in the world, and there is a time lag between the time they are cut and they come to your house or your plate. And as the plant is cut, its nutrients start dropping. So the reason number 4 is respiration. Fruits and vegetables, after they are cut, they still keep continuing to breathe, and that process is called respiration. In fact, due to this, a lot of their nutrients start dropping. That's why experts tell you that you should eat fruits and vegetables grown in vicinity. But it's not possible, right? It was possible in the old agrarian societies or these days in rural societies. But in urban areas, it's very difficult. You have to get that food from outside. Reason number 5 is oxidation. When fruits and vegetables are cut, a part of them gets exposed to air, basically to oxygen, and causes something called oxidation, which leads to typically spoilage of this food. And their nutrients start dropping. You must have seen an apple which is cut turns brown. That's oxidation. Some fruits, some vegetables become soft and soggy. That is oxidation. And their nutrients start falling. In fact, this happens even for processed foods. For example, did you know that in orange juice, the vitamin C content starts dropping after you process and take the orange juice out? It starts falling at the rate of about 2% a day. So an orange juice, even if you keep it in the fridge, it's going to start losing its vitamin C. In fact, in a study, they found that in a cup of orange juice, over 4 weeks, the vitamin C content dropped from 85 milligram to 45 milligram, nearly half over a month. I hope you're scoring yourself as we are going along. We have finished 5 points, 10 more to go. Point number 6 is ripeness of fruits and vegetables. Most fruits and vegetables have their highest nutrition when they are fully ripe. However, to transport them over a long distance or to make them available throughout the year, many of these are cut when they are raw, and then they are artificially ripened just before giving it for sales in the market. For example, you must be knowing that apple is a seasonal fruit. It's not available throughout the year. But in India, for example, you get it throughout the year. How does this happen? They pluck raw apples, so very poor amount of nutrition in those at that point. They're stored in silos, and then they're artificially ripened and sold. So that's how you get them year round. So are you getting fresh fruits and vegetables, or you are getting them from silos? Reason number 7, absence of cold supply chains. High temperature increases the spoilage of fruits and vegetables. To transport fruits and vegetables over long distances, they are usually cut, frozen and transported in environment controlled trucks. Now this is common or commonly available in developed world, but in countries such as India, my country, this cold supply chain or vehicles with environmental control for transporting fruits and vegetables don't exist. So there's a lot of damage in the transit. Of course, if you belong to a developed country, you get that point. You don't have to worry about it. Lucky you. Reason number 8 is air pollution. Air pollution is a modern evil which causes problems such as heart disease, stroke, dementia, cancer, and many respiratory conditions. And air pollution causes all these mainly through oxidative and inflammatory processes. And so that necessitates you and I, if we live in polluted area, to have foods which have more antioxidants or more anti-inflammatory stuff in them compared to our grandparents, because they didn't have to deal with those air pollution issues. The nutrients that you need for this are B vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, and even omega-3 fatty acids. In fact, I found that most people don't even know if they live in polluted area. You know how to check it? Here's the tip. Type AQICN space and the name of your city after that. For example, if I want to know the air pollution level in my city, Mumbai, I will type AQICN space Mumbai and I'll know the latest air pollution level. And unless it's raining outside, the typical air pollution in large parts of the developing world especially has much higher air pollution. And so automatically our requirement for nutrients is much more if we live in these areas than what our grandparents needed. We finished 8 points. Now let's go to the individual factors. These are different for different people and these are more lifestyle related factors. Okay, so let's look at them one by one. So reason number 9 is the myth of a balanced diet. This is what most people say, right? I eat a balanced diet. In fact, from my school days, I remember they used to tell us to have a square meal. And as a kid, I used to wonder, how can you have a square meal in a round plate? And so, jokes apart, I mean, I have a gut feeling that most people don't know what's a balanced diet or what's a square meal. And think about it. I mean, what is a balanced diet? How much carbohydrates, proteins, fats, how much of vitamin B, how much of vitamin C, how much fiber? These in fact change based on lifestyle, right? Adolescents will need different amounts than women, than elderly people. If you're a sports person, your nutrient requirement will be different. If one is a pregnant woman, her nutrient requirement will be different. So actually balanced diet will change from person to person and life stage to life stage, correct? And so you cannot say that I eat balanced diet. Do you eat balanced diet for your life stage? Reason number 10 is convenience based lifestyle. Most of us these days eat foods which are more convenient and usually they end up becoming junk foods. Think about it. If your child goes for a birthday party, what does the child get? Some healthy stuff? Or you get all those cakes and wafers and ice creams? And this is not just kids, you know, even adults have the same problem. If you have an office party, what do you get? Some nice soup salads and stuff like that? No, you will get pizzas and all sorts of junk, right? And so a lot of these nutritional needs will be not fulfilled in many of the meals because our lifestyle is convenient. We are not going to go to complicated process to get very healthy food. Reason number 11, limited variety. Now when we talk of balanced diet, let's say you have balanced diet. Do you know that within the balanced diet, each category you need to rotate foods? Most families have preference for certain foods within each category. For example, lentils. There'll be the same lentils that a family will want and some other family will want a different set of lentils. Okay, very few families will have different ones on different days. To give an example, if you're getting your proteins just from beans and pulses and not from grains, you're not getting grain proteins, you'll be deficient in an amino acid, a small part of a protein called methionine. Okay, methionine is very important. Its absence can cause a lot of metabolic issues and a visual problem will be premature graying of hair. Now I also have a little bit of graying hair, but I can guarantee you it's not premature if you know my age. And so one needs to rotate amongst lentils, rotate amongst green leafy vegetables, rotate amongst fish or meat. You don't want to have the same stuff over and over because that may be balanced diet for that day, but over days, multiple days, that's not balanced diet. And I don't know what kind of foods you eat. Do you eat the same stuff over and over and over again with one or two changes, or do you have 20 different fruits and vegetables on a regular basis? Another set of issues come with today's processed foods. You see, in our busy lifestyle, we don't have time to choose food or cook food. We don't even have time to eat food often. And so, invariably, we take foods which are easy to eat, and most of the times they are processed foods. So, reason number 12 is removal of fiber. See, high fiber food is usually crunchy and difficult to eat. So modern food industry has just removed fibers from many of the things so that they're easy to eat. Many foods are easy to eat. And so the idea is to make food easier on palate. In fact, this is also true for foods that is not processed. For example, the bananas that your grandparents ate or their grandparents ate used to have a lot of seeds. Those varieties of banana in those days had big seeds in the middle. And these days, the newer varieties have, the Cavendish bananas or whatever. You can just eat them. Probably they don't even have seeds. I remember when we were kids, the grapes used to have, the green grapes used to have all these big, big seeds. So we would eat one grape and carefully remove that bitter, sour seed in it. Then we have the next grape. These days we get seedless grapes. So we just take a few from a bunch and wolf them down. So we end up getting a lot of calories with very little fiber. Reason number 13 is appetizing and addictive foods. Now, processed foods need more salt or sugar to increase their shelf life and reduce the growth of microbes in them. So, that's a genuine concern. However, salt, sugar, spices increase the flavors of the food also. If you add sugar or high fructose corn syrup, it can give you a dopamine surge, and that can be addictive. And of course, companies want that. They want you to be addicted to their foods. In fact, there's a lot of research that goes on in finding out which artificial flavors or thickeners, emulsifiers, or additives can give you a better texture or flavor or mouth feel so that you will keep coming to that food again and again. As a result, a lot of our food is nutritionally sparse and, of course, calorically dense and addictive. Reason number 14, reduced activity level. Now, in the times of your grandparents or their grandparents or their grandparents, that is 100, 150 years back, most of the people used to work outdoors. And people who worked in farms or toiling there for the whole day had huge calorie requirement. Their energy needs were much higher. And so they ate a lot of food, and obviously they got a lot of nutrient with it. It is said that our calorie requirement these days is almost half as what it used to be for our forefathers who used to toil the whole day in farms or somewhere outside. And so we don't eat as many calories as our grandparents ate, because if we eat them, we'll become fat, we'll put on weight, which is happening to a lot of people. And so we manage with much less amount of calories for our day-to-day requirement. But if you eat less calories, you are going to get less nutrients. So even if you eat exactly the same food your grandparents had, just because you are eating half the amount today, you will get half the nutrients. Your body's nutrient requirement may not have become half now. Some nutrients will be probably needed in similar levels as your grandparents needed. And that is one more problem. You are probably deficient in nutrients. Reason number 15, and it's an important one, health scares and dietary changes because of that. In last 50 years, our society has developed fear of heart disease. So we are told don't eat saturated fats, and we substitute them with something called omega-6 oils. Now this alters the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 oils in our diet. In our forefathers' time, omega-6 to omega-3, that ratio used to be 1:1. 1:1 is quite healthy. In fact, omega-6 4 times than omega-3, up to that level it's okay. But when omega-6 goes more and more above that, it is highly inflammatory and it can lead to a lot of health problems such as heart disease. So we actually increase omega-6 to reduce heart disease, and we end up getting heart disease because we are taking so much of omega-6 that our ratios are getting skewed. And so you get all these inflammatory conditions such as heart disease, stroke, dementia, cancer, all sorts of things. Even osteoarthritis and osteoporosis are considered to be inflammatory. Obesity is an inflammatory condition. And the only way to solve this is to get the ratio in check. The current ratio in your diet and my diet is 1:20. That is 20 times omega 6 to 1 time omega 3. It used to be 1:1 and 4:1 is the tops, and we have 20:1. So, I mean, logically, you need to have 5 times more of omega 3 just to keep the ratio same, or reduce your omega 6, and then you need to have other types of fats, right? And so, omega 3's requirements is 5 times more for you compared to your grandparents. Because many of you say, oh, my grandparents didn't need omega 3 supplements, so why should I need them? Well, because your diet is different. I'll give one more example, and this is from Harvard Medical School. They say that our ancestors used to have nearly 11 grams of potassium from fruits, vegetables, roots, whatever they ate outside, and just about 700 milligrams of salt. So the ratio was 16:1. Okay, 16 potassium, 1 sodium. Today in our diet we get sodium 3.5 grams and potassium 2.5 grams. So that's a ratio of 1.4:1, a difference of 20 times. Now it is said that the potassium to sodium ratio should be at least 2:1. So potassium should be at least 2 times more than sodium, and your current ratio is 1 to 1.4, and good old days it used to be 16:1. So it was much better than 2:1. Now let's look at you having salted chips, and let's say it gives you only 2 extra grams of salt, and so the sodium you get is 1 gram, 1 extra gram. To compensate for this, you need to have at least 2 grams of potassium. Okay, you are having 2.5 grams a day of potassium, and just because you ate some little bit of salted chips, your potassium requirement went from 2.5 to 4.5 grams a day. And so you have 50, 60, 70, 80% increased need for potassium just because you ate some junk food. And so this is how a lot of modern dietary changes have caused your nutrient requirement to change. So this was the 15th point. How are we doing scoring wise? You're winning? Let me give you one more interesting point, okay? And I hope that clinches the deal. Now sometimes some experts use reverse argument. They say if you are deficient, then you should have problems. If you are not having problems, then what are you talking about as deficiency? Okay. For example, calcium is needed for heart functioning or muscle contraction, not just for strong bones. So they say if you are deficient in calcium, I mean, you will die. So we are not really deficient in calcium. Why are you telling people that they need to strengthen their bones and worry about this? You are fear mongering. Now, number one, absence of evidence of deficiency is not the evidence of absence of deficiency. So just because you don't see deficiencies evidence does not mean the deficiency doesn't exist. So that was the rationale. But let me give you a very important point, that is point number 16, which will explain you why you may not see the symptoms of deficiency while having the deficiency. And reason number 16 is something called triage theory. To triage is to allocate a limited resource to the most important tasks. Triaging is what is done in emergency situations like natural calamities or war, where doctors have to allocate limited resources to the patients who are most viable. It's a very tough choice because you have to play God for this thing and decide that, okay, this person will not get those resources, this person has a better chance of surviving, I will give resources there. And so it's a tough choice. But your body also does the same. As per triage theory, this was propounded by Professor Bruce Ames from University of California, Los Angeles in year 2007. And he said your body does the same. When there is a shortfall of a nutrient, body allocates that nutrient not equally to all the tasks, not less numbers to all the tasks equally. It will allocate that nutrient to the most vital task, not the most important task, most immediate task which have to do with survival. So if you are deficient in calcium, your body will say, look, calcium, whatever little bit I have, will be needed for heart functioning and for muscle contraction. I cannot let this person die, so I'll allocate it to them. And bone strengthening and all those other things can wait. We'll do that when we get that extra calcium. Right now we postpone. So it increases the risk of osteoporosis. So if you are deficient in calcium, you will not die of heart palpitations or muscles flopping all over. You will not die because your body will use that limited amount only for those functions and will remove them from bone strengthening, and you will have weaker bones. You will face that after 10-15 years. And this triage theory was proven recently in the context of vitamin K. It was not just theory, now it's practically proven. For example, vitamin K, if you are deficient in it, body will use it for a very important task, which is clotting of blood. Vitamin K is needed for clotting of blood, but it is also needed for preventing diseases of aging, that is aging. And the body says, hey, if you are deficient in vitamin K, I'll take care of this clotting, but I mean, aging, you please live with it. At least you'll age faster. If I don't take care of clotting, you will die today. And so the main point is, just because you don't see the evidence of deficiency doesn't mean you don't have deficiency. In fact, it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. Those problems will accumulate and accumulate because they are long term. Your body will not worry about it. It will take care of the short term, immediate, urgent needs. I mean, that's how you and I are also, right? If we have certain amount of money, most of us will not save it. Most of us will say, I need it for this, I need it for this, I need it for this. These are immediate, instant gratification and needs. Long-term saving will wait. When I get more money, I'll save. I hope I have given you enough reasons why our environment and our lifestyle is leading to less nutrients through our foods. And so supplementation of those, either through foods or through supplements, is necessary. Now let's face it, most of us are busy. If I tell you to eat 40% extra food, or if I tell you to eat organic food or locally produced food, it's probably not going to happen. It's nice in theory, but practically it will be difficult. And so my personal contention is nutritional or dietary supplements is the second best choice, but it's the choice you have. So if you can't do it through foods, actual foods or healthy foods, you do it through supplements. And that's why I feel that you need supplements. Remember, ignorance is a very bad idea when it comes to staying healthy. Here are some more videos that could be of interest to you. Thank you.